Hi, this is Jeff with Command Performance AV, and we're here to do another YouTube video of a very interesting product. This is SOTA Turntables, an American-made brand, and we're going to be putting together their latest version 7 of their Nova series turntables, and that's in their Heritage line. So as you can tell, number 7, it's been turntable, it's evolved over many years, so it's kind of a classic look, but with modern technologies. So we're going to take it, unbox it. This is our first time we've done a Nova 7, and we'll learn together. Anyways, let's get to it. There are several options when you order a Nova 7. In terms of the motor, it comes with a basic motor, but you can do what's called the full Eclipse package, or portions of it, where they put in a motor assembly that can be controlled externally via a linear power supply and a very sophisticated speed control. It'll be locked in there, nuts on, speed, your 33 1/3 and 45. That's how we ordered ours. And in terms of the basic turntable itself, you can order that with or without a vacuum pump. And one of the best things that I like about the SOTA turntables, or most of them at least, you can order colors in terms of finishes that are real wood. So it's a very, to me, aesthetically pleasing. I used to do a lot of woodworking, so I just love the look of a real wood turntable. That makes it a little bit special for me. So let's go in and start building this thing. Okay, so the SOTA turntable for the Nova will come in 2 packages, a smaller but still heavy platter box, and the main box that will contain all the elements of the turntable. So let's start unboxing. If you ordered a dust cover with yours, that will be the first thing at the top of the box. Got custom cut foam. So for this, again, we're going through the first time. We're going to attach this and put this lid on at the end, but it does come with some cleaning instructions so you don't scratch the heck out of it. And let's see, next up is the actual turntable itself. Now this is a suspended turntable, so it's going to have some motion to it. But what we'll need to do is, while we put this cloth here on the table, a little padding, is at one point we're going to have to flip it to its side to remove the internal packaging. So we want to protect the turntable. One more piece of foam here, and then we'll pick up the table itself. So here is our turntable. We ordered ours in the walnut finish. We were really going for sort of the classic look on it. And what I'm going to do now is take the protective plastic off, and we can talk about some of the elements. Okay, we took our turntable out of the plastic bag, and as I discussed earlier, this is the walnut finish. Cherry's also a standard color, and depending upon if you want to pay them enough, they'll probably do another finish for you too. At least that's what they say. But it is just gorgeous. So, and you notice the beautiful inlay woodwork here. So you take it out, it looks like, SOTAs of the past, the Nova Heritage, but there are a lot of changes to this. If you want to come up and over, we can see the inside. The bottom now is a phenolic resin to reduce vibration with aluminum support. Very heavy, finely milled aluminum components here. We'll talk about it later. This is where your tone armor is going to go, on a separate resin platform that will show you how to adjust for weight. It is a 4-point suspension system, so when we put this thing on its side, which will be our next step to remove the padding, we'll show how the suspension works. Then around back, we can see the inputs for the power supply, the sensor if you go for it, and that all hooks up to a very sophisticated control mechanism on the inside, where you have your motor assembly, your pulley, and we'll show attaching each of these elements as we go through it. Now that we have looked at the internals of this, what we're going to do is release the suspension and add the feet to it. So what we're going to have to do is put the turntable on its side, and to protect the motor assembly and the internal electronics, we're going to make sure we tip it up this way. So motor side down, and now we're looking at the underside of our turntable. We can see the main connection points where the arm board's going to go, and what we're going to do is release the these screws here to allow the subchassis to float. Okay, now we're going to release the suspension that's suspended at 4 points here, so we can see 2, 3, 4, and these locking nuts and washers and foam are keeping this in place. So we're going to remove these now. And I would certainly advise you keep all of these parts and all your packaging, because if you ever have to move or you decide you want to get a bigger turntable someday, it's going to be almost impossible to repackage it otherwise. So some electronics, I don't necessarily keep the box. Turntables, I always keep everything. Very sharp aluminum feet, but lightweight. And they recommend starting with 2 full turns. 1, 2, 1, 2. And as I mentioned, they are super sharp, so they do come with the pads, the spike pads, so that you won't damage your furniture. This is just a setup table for us, so it's going to be easier for me not to use them while we're doing the video. The next step is we're going to work on the platter assembly. Before I do that, I'm going to try to level it a bit. No, just rough at this point. We're actually going to move this to another location afterwards. So I'm just going to get an approximate level. So the platter, this is very different from previous SOTA turntables. It's now magnetically levitating with the use of neodymium magnets in the sub-platter assembly and within the housing of the platter itself. We'll take this off a little bit, but first we'll get out the platter. It comes with this little piece of foam that we're actually going to use as we work on the platter itself. Well, it's not a super tall platter. It's definitely got some weight to it. We're going to temporarily take this upside down and put it into the little cutout hole here. As I mentioned, we are doing this for the first time with this turntable, and here's something we definitely want to point out so you don't panic like we just did. You're supposed to use the oil to do your lubrication, and couldn't find it anywhere. But they did put a little thing, if you can read, which we didn't, that parts are underneath the platter cushion here of the foam, and they're on the back side. So when you're ready to do it, you'll learn from our mistake. It is right here. Okay, we took off the plastic, the shrink wrap here, and the overall plastic. And one thing to note, before we lubricate this, you will notice there is some lubrication, if you can see it on the video or not, and that's left over from the testing. Each platter and bearing are keyed, so they're tested individually, they're made for each other. And what's different versus your father's Nova and your grandfather's Nova, perhaps, is this is magnetically suspended. So there are magnets on both sides to keep it levitating. And there's nothing that's really going to hold the platter in place once we put it down. So we definitely have to keep this thing level, horizontal once we put the platter on. Otherwise, you will damage both the inside of the platter and the bearing. So think about that. So at this point, if you haven't put this where you want your turntable to be, it's probably best that you do that now. So I am going to take the oil. It comes with 3 Q-tips. I don't know if they expect you to set it up 3 times or drop 2 of them. The latter is probably me. Get some oil here. I'm going to take a Q-tip. And I'm going to do this over a piece of plastic that I can find in here. And you probably don't want to do it over this one, but I'm going to do it. I'm just going to add a drop of oil. Don't need much. To this Q-tip. And I'm then going to lubricate. If you can see inside there, you're going to come up over the top, and there's a copper inside, colored inside, brass I should say, and we are going to lubricate that. And as this gets used, it will spread out, and that's why you see some of this on the outside already. Next, we're going to put the platter on. Before we do that, we have to take the protection off the spindle, and a little leftover residue from the testing. Now we want to be very careful that we align the platter up so we don't bang against the spindle. And we also want to make sure of, if we come down to the platter, there's this outer lip part that's going to help with the vacuum seal, that we don't crush that. We want to be very gentle around that. There we go. So actually now you can see the suspension moving, and that's going to help with your footfall, especially if you're on old hardwood floors, and very effective technique for isolating a turntable. The next step we're going to do is to actually level the turntable, but one thing to not worry about at this point is that you'll notice that one side of the platter is higher than the other, and that's because we still have not taken into account the fact that the tone arm and the connection point is going to add additional weight, and that will level the inside part. So right now we're going to work on leveling this. Okay, I have removed the pellets. I've taken my tone arm, mounted it to the arm board, inserted it into the hole. I've not screwed it down because we need to make adjustments later. We'll see that. And then I went through the process, which you don't need to see, of leveling out the tone arm so it's fairly even, so we get the weight distribution front to back. Now we're going to put my level back on, and I see it's just slightly off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tone arm, we're going to release it, we're going to move it over. I'm going to move this a little more, make sure my cue is up. And what I'm going to do is add enough pellets into a lightweight cup, not included. And I add just enough pellets to level this out. This is really close, so I don't think we're going to need much at all. But we'll find out. Getting close. A little more than I thought. Maybe one more. And that looks pretty level to me. So what that tells us is the weight of the tone arm, cartridge, anti-skate, everything, plus what's in this cup is equal to what we started with. So now what I need to do is put the arm back in place, remove the cup, take off the arm board, and then we'll insert these pellets into a little pocket that's inside. We'll do that now. All right, now that we got the proper weight, as I mentioned, we're going to take our shot or our balls and put them in the reservoir. What I'm going to do, though, is instead of just pouring them in, I'm going to put these into a baggie first so they're easier to remove later. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out carefully because I have no guard on my stylus for this cartridge. And if we come up over the top, we can see the reservoir. I take this baggie, stick it in there, put my tone arm back, the tone arm board, and now I can attach these via the set points, and we're done with this part of the setup. Okay, we've now set up all the mechanical elements of the turntable. What's left are the electronics. So we've got the control cover, pump if you get one, the speed tachometer, lots of options to go through. But what I figured we'd do is we'd split this into a two-part video. In the second part, we'll cover all the electronics parts, because I'm even getting bored with my own voice at this point. So we're going to cut it off here. We hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And please check out the second part where we'll finish the turntable setup.